Hey, my name is Athena and this is my December wrap. Sorry about the more boring thumbnail, but I didn't really want to hold up all the books. I'm going to try to do things a bit quick, but I know myself. But I don't really feel like editing like a really long video, so I was actually thinking for next year, this year, 2021, to do things a bit differently on my channel, because I was just doing the monthly wrap-ups and I was kind of getting a bit tired of that, but I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do that, how I'm going to change things. So alright, now I suppose we should get into the wrap-up. After this I hope to make a best books I read in 2020 video, as well as my statistics video, which that's the most fun one for me to make all year. So, and actually the first book and short stories that I read in December, I discussed them in my November wrap-up, because that is Only Human by Sylvain Neuvel, which is book 3 in the Themis files trilogy, and I also read the last 2 short stories. That's what these are for. But I made the previous wrap-up after I finished this book, so I said everything on there already. So you can watch that one if you want. I love this series. Oh, it's science fiction and it is told through interviews and files and things. Then it was a time again for the readathon I do with a bunch of people that are not on BookTube, in which I read graphic novels and manga. They read different stuff, but anyway, it's a tradition that goes back to before I started my BookTube channel. So first up I read Himouto Umaru-chan Volume 6 by Sankakuhead, and I also read Volume 7. I didn't feel like reading Volume 8 at the time. I have now read that in January. So this series is about Umaru, who, so she lives with her brother in an apartment, and when she's with her brother she turns kind of into this lazy person who like plays lots of video games and who lets her brother do everything. Her brother, Dachez, he has a job, she's in high school, and well, the books are about various stories going on. I recognize quite a few things from the anime, and yeah, I really like reading these 2 books. Well. Then I read Invisible Differences by Mademoiselle Caroline and Julie Dachez, and inspired by and collaborated by Fabienne Vaslet. Sorry for not pronouncing those names properly. This is, I translated it from French, and it is, I think, a fictionalized story, but it is based on Caroline's real life, if that makes sense. So it is basically her finding out about that she is autistic. As it says here, a story of Asperger's adulting and living life in full color. Now, I think this book, as far as I know, was a relatively recent release. Yeah, August 2020. And I really like this. I have one but. I really like this though in general. The art was really nice. I enjoyed the story. Of course, the information about autism is not new to me, being autistic myself. But I really liked reading the story and the art. Yeah, so the one thing that I had a little bit of trouble with nowadays is, so here it talks about Asperger's syndrome. Now, in the world, so like the manual to diagnose these things that's now the DSM-5. It used to be DSM-4. That's what I was diagnosed with. Anyway, so in the DSM-5, there is no separation between like different forms of autism. Like you used to have Asperger's, and then you used to have more classic autism and Braden, and I don't know exactly what it's called in English, but now they're all classified as ASS, autism spectrum disorders. And I think it was about almost 2 years ago when I read Bianca Tups's book, and in that she talks about the history of Asperger's, because that was discovered by Hans Asperger, and it was related to basically these children in like World War II camps. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it properly, but who were still deemed to be valuable to society or something like that. I can't quite remember, but Bianca Tups's books explain it much better, and otherwise I'm sure there's also stuff online. Or you can ask me and I'll look it up where you can find it. So that was just the one thing that I liked less, because this book talks about it, but it's published in 2020. Now, I don't know, of course, when these things happened to the character that they happened to, if that makes sense. So that makes sense. But, and I get that this is not the, there's other books as well that use that term, but mostly they are older books. But some newer books as well. I think it was a 2015 book, which stated that there was a DSM-5 now, but because the author was diagnosed under DSM-4, she still preferred the old term. And you know, that's, I mean, that I guess I can understand that. I was not diagnosed with Asperger's, so I have never, well, that's not true. I mean, okay, we're going into a ramble already. For a long time, when I was a kid and my parents talked about it, I did think I might have Asperger's. But when I eventually got diagnosed as a teenager, they didn't diagnose me with that. They diagnosed me with something, another autism variant, or you know. So, so I don't identify with this term as much as maybe other people. So I prefer using the term autism to just include the whole spectrum, let's say. But well, this is just a minor thing, and it. If you don't know any of that sort of history, Nazis, World War II, Jews, I can't remember. I will have to look this up, but also I'm really bad at explaining things, even though in my head it makes sense. So yeah. Anyway, so this was overall a really good read. It's just that one thing that bugged me, but probably wouldn't necessarily bug other people. But I want to try to, you know, do better and use, you know, if language needs changing. Anyway, let's not go off on too many tangents, because I have only gotten through a few books and we're already at 10 minutes. So the next book that I read is The Babysitter's Club, the next book 8 in the graphic novel series Logan Likes Mary Ann by Gale Galligan, and it is inspired by Anne M. Martin's novel The Babysitter's Club. This originally is, I think, book 10, but in the graphic novel series they've changed things around a bit, but that's beside the point. I love the original series and have also been loving these graphic novel adaptations, and I did that with this one as well. It is interesting though for me, because in the Dutch translation of these, which I read the Dutch translations when I was a kid, the names of the characters are different, and so Logan is not called Logan in Dutch. So now for the main characters, I've already read quite a few of the graphic novels, and I've read some of the super specials in English, some of the normal books also in English. So I'm kind of used to the names for the main characters now. But so for Logan, that's not quite the case yet, but I'm sure as I'll read more, because I want to reread the series as well and stuff. But yeah, too much rambling. This book was really nice. I also really like the art, and I like that they made Logan a person of color. I think he's black. And well, that there was not much of that in the original series, other than Jessie and her family. So yeah, I thought that was really nice. This has a lot of nostalgia for me as well. So today I'm not here to tell you to read specific books. I'm just here to tell you what I read and what I thought of it. So then I read Babysitter's Little Sister. This is book 2 in the graphic novel series of Babysitter's Little Sister, and this is Karen's Roller Skates, and it is by Katy Farina, and again based on the novel by Anna Martin. I've read the first book of this series before, and I have only ever read the first book of Karen's, well, the original Little Sister books, because my sister got that one and she didn't buy any more after that, or maybe it was a gift. But so I've never read any other ones, and well, I liked the first book, but at the time, of course, I was more the age of the main Babysitter's Club books, and so the other one, yeah, felt a little bit below my age, so I didn't end up buying any of those. But anyway, so I didn't actually know lots about this story beforehand, but I really liked it, of course. I mean, I like these characters, so well, here's some of the art again. So in this story, Karen has roller skates and she has fun roller skating with them, I guess you would call that, but then she has an accident. So that's basically, I mean, you can see it on the cover here. So yeah, that's kind of what happens. I do think it's weird though that for some reason the spine, I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of a misprint in that there's a little bit of pink there that should not be there, if that makes sense. That should have been on the back. And then on the front cover there's a little bit of dark green here that was supposed to be on the spine. I don't know if that happened with like all of Dispatcher books or whatever, it's just me. But I've just closed the shutter, so if you notice a difference in the background, it's getting dark outside, and I've just closed the shutter because then it's better for the heat to, yeah. Anyway, so the next book I read is How to Be Ace by Rebecca Burgess, and this is a memoir of growing up asexual, a graphic memoir. And I really like this. I'm saying that with most of the book this month. So I am demisexual, demi-romantic, so I don't know what's wrong with me. Actually I do. I'm on new medication and it is messing me up. And actually it was interesting because after I finished this book, and then I read the back again, which for some reason I hadn't done in a while, it turns out that Rebecca is autistic. And so throughout the book I did recognize things from Rebecca, but I'm not someone who wonders like with every page, is this person autistic? That's not, you know, I read the book and I find things to relate to. So that was kind of nice finding that out after it says it on the back cover. So, but yeah, so yeah, I really like this, and you know, we need more books about this. We need to get this information more known in the world so that, you know, the people know that this is also okay. Does that make sense? Like I said, my brain, medication. Yeah, so I'm on a new medication for a while now, and it has made it hard for me to fall asleep after I've been sleeping for a while. So I fall asleep alright, I sleep for a few hours, and then I wake up and I have trouble sleeping again. So basically I kind of have a chronic lack of sleep now from the past while. And it also makes me talk fast, this medication, so if I'm all over the place, that's because I am, and I'm tired. But, you know, it's January now, and I just want to get this wrap up out of the way so I can make more fun videos, like the best books I read, and, you know, my statistics videos, so, yeah. Okay, so the next book is Delta's Betoverende sprookjeswereld. So I bought this at the library some time ago, when the library was still open. There were library sales, and they usually had some kind of thing that when they have a big library sale, then it's usually one book for €1, but then they have, like, if you buy so many books, it's €5, if that makes sense. So like 6 books, €5, or well, stuff like that. Or they've done that in the past. We haven't had library sales all year, and I'm really sad about it. Obviously because of COVID. I'm not going anywhere anyway. I wouldn't even if there was, because it's just not safe at the moment. But anyway, so this I think was one of those extra books that I bought in the past few years, not in 2020, but that as like an extra book. So this is basically retellings of some famous fairy tales. There is also a CD. So I think it's a kind of like audiobook thing, which there is actually a CD in it, because I have bought books secondhand from the library before where the CD wasn't actually in it. Now I'm personally not specifically bothered about the CD, but you never know if there is someone who is bothered about it and wants to listen to the CD reading the stories. So it's got nice illustrations. Now these are like based on fairy tales. That's what sprookjes means, they're fairy tales. Now I don't know the translation of all of them because this is in Dutch and I only know them in Dutch. Other than Snow White, I know that one. And I think Hans and Grietje is Hansel and Gretel, but I don't know if that's the German or what, but yeah. Because I think that's originally German, but anyway. So we also got Aladdin and the Wonder Lamp. I don't know what that originally was called in English. But this book was not published in English before, so they retold these fables, fairy tales, and it has nice illustrations. So, well, I liked it. It was just a fun read. I haven't read any fairy tales in a long time. When I was a kid, my mum, we had two big books that were, one was from Hans Christian Andersen and the other one was from the Brothers Grimm, and they also had some pictures now and then, and she used to read these to me, and I think also my sister, because we're only 2 years apart. So, and I always really enjoyed that. So yeah, this is also, I guess, a little bit nostalgia. The next book is kind of a bit in the same vein. This is called Stories for Girls, and it has varying different stories in it, so various authors, and there's also the one for boys, and this book is obviously sold by library because it was already like that, so that's why they sold it, and it was, again, I think, one of those books that I picked up to get to the amount. Yeah, so here is the page of content with all the authors on it, because it is based on, I think, 6 originally English stories. Now, I enjoyed these stories. I am not a fan of like girls pink, boys blue, and I feel like boys and girls and any other genders can also read stories that are written for another gender, if you get what I mean. Like, but that's just me. I mean, well, that's not just me, but this book is quite old. Well, it's not new, let's put it that way. I'm gonna just check to see if I can find a year. Yeah, so some of these, the oldest of these stories is from 2001, and then there's 2007, and so it is a bit older. It is still a thing, I think, that, you know, pink, girls, boys, blue, that happens in at least some places in the world. And as someone who doesn't feel like 100% woman, if that makes sense, I always find this difficult. Actually, my favorite color is blue. Okay, now I'm not a boy, but my favorite color has always been blue. I like pink as well, don't get me wrong, but when I was little, pink and yellow were my sister's favorite colors. Blue was mine. And yeah, I remember often when we went to the McDonald's as a kid, and I was a kid, I really liked that. I haven't been there in years. I always asked my dad to get the blue Happy Meal when they split them up, but sometimes I wanted the girls one because those cool toys were cooler anyway. So that was really my only remark with this. I enjoyed the stories. Otherwise, they had less text and more pictures than the other book. This is really more of a picture book, I would say. Well, that was just a picture with no words, but it's really more of a picture book with like some words on the page, which I didn't realize before I bought it, but that doesn't matter because I do enjoy reading picture books as well. The thing is just they are relatively expensive to buy for the fact that I can read them really quickly, and then, you know, I don't read them again for some time. Whereas, you know, if you buy one for your kid or something, then you tend to read it quite often, right? Because kids want to hear it again, and well, so then you get more value for money out of it. So I have only, of course, limited money, so then I prefer to use that on books that I take longer reading and not something that I read really quickly. I do like to borrow them from the library anyway. I am so sorry. Moving on. I said I was going to be quick, and we're already like at half an hour and I haven't even done half the books yet. I hope you'll forgive me for the fact that I am all over the place, but I don't really want to wait until whatever's going to happen with my medication. So I just want to do this and wrap up, and then I can put the books away and have more space in my room, because I save the books in like a box until I've done the wrap up, and then they can be put on the shelves where they belong. Next up we have Phoebe and a Unicorn by Dana Simpson. And this is book 1 in the Phoebe and her Unicorn series. It's a graphic novel. It's actually more comics, in the sense that it's more also some smaller stories, if that makes sense. So some of them are just like a 1 or 2 page spread with like the story and then it ends. Some others take longer. And it's basically about Phoebe who meets a unicorn and they spend time together, and yeah, there's a theme of friendship and it's also funny. So yeah, I like this. The only thing was that because it's all a lot of little stories, it cost me more energy to read the whole thing in, well, let's say an afternoon. I can't remember when in a day I read this, but so that's something to note for when I read other books in the series, because I have a few more. I have some more. Because it costs me a lot of energy if I have to process lots of little stories, if that makes sense. Then I read the 39th story Treehouse by Andy Griffiths and Terry Denton. Now, I've been rereading this series. So this is book 3 in the Treehouse series. They, Andy and Denton have again added 13 floors and stuff happens. The story has a lot of pictures and not as much text, which makes it really suitable for me to read it during, well, like the weekend where I read a lot of graphic books, if that makes sense, like kids books and stuff. So yeah, this was also very, very funny. So next up is the Diary of Dorcas Maximus. Oh yeah, book 1 of the series. This is also a reread, but like with the Treehouse, I've read it in the library, so now I'm reading my own copy for the first time, if that makes sense. When I read this one at the library, by the way, it was in Dutch. So in Dutch it's actually called, because Dorcas is his name, in Dutch he's called Nerdius, because of the word nerd in Dutch. We don't have a word for the word dork, but we have nerd, so I guess the closest thing or something. Anyway, so he lives in Roman times, and well, his father is always on about him. Like, he wants to be a Roman hero. And then there's his brother Braunus, who is yeah, of course, big and strong, and Dorcas is not. The whole diary thing is I suppose based on Diary of a Wimpy Kid, although this book is pretty old as well, so I don't actually know. 2013. But anyway, I really liked rereading this. It's also really nice that, for example, here the chapters have Roman numerals, as say this is March 26th. So there is an explanation of those, by the way, in the book for anyone who is not familiar with that and doesn't know how to read that. So yeah, I like this. And then I read Happy Holidays by Stephen Butler and James Patterson. Although I think Stephen Butler did most of it and James Patterson came up with the idea and some of the characters. But anyway, illustrated by Richard Watson. Last month, that is in November, I read book 1 in this series. So in December I read book 2 because this one is Christmas themed, and so I thought since Christmas is in December, it'd be good to read this now. And this was not a reread for me. This was a new book, and it's actually also about Thanksgiving. American, I think. So, and yeah, it had nice illustrations. It has some similar elements to the first book, you know, the same kind of humor as well. I mean, the dog, what's he called? Oh, Junior, tries to interpret the things that the people do in his own doggy way, basically. So he is trying to. They're having Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that, and yeah. Anyway, it was funny and entertaining, and yeah, I really liked it. Oh, and now we get to, this one's quite heavy. Solutions and Other Problems by Ellie Brush. Now I have read her first book several times. It's called Hyperbole and a Half. I reread it earlier this year, and I had been waiting for a long time for this book to come out, because it was going to come out and then it wasn't, and well, anyway, doesn't matter that the author had some things going on in her life. Anyway, it was here now, so obviously I pre-ordered it and then read it soon after I got it. Well, maybe a little while after, because it had to be sent here and stuff, but yeah. Anyway, for my doing, relatively soon, so this is her second book. They are graphic memoirs. She used to have a blog, but this is stuff that hasn't been on the blog before, because I think the blog hasn't been updated since the first book, but I'm not sure. Because maybe it has, because I looked it up before this book. I really like this. I didn't like it quite as much as the first one, but I really like this. I can't quite put my finger on it why I didn't like it quite as much. I guess it depends also on some of the stuff that happened. Some things are really funny, I thought. Yeah, just like the back already implies, just like the first book. I guess some things maybe felt a little bit more repetitive. I don't know, I can't remember. I could relate to some things, not others. Yeah, I don't know. I think I will reread it again, maybe along with the first book sometime, because it's January now and I have already read a lot more books after this, so of a lot of these books I can't quite remember exactly what happened, but this has nice art and I really enjoyed reading it. Oh yeah, in case you didn't notice, it is now that all the graphic novels manga weekend thing, that's over now. That was already over before I started reading Solutions and Other Problems, but I really wanted to read that one and I hadn't gone around to it. So anyway, then I read Wonderland. This is a young adult Christmas story anthology with these Dutch authors: Jennifer Melling, Jen Minkman, Chinook Thijssen, Eva Moraal, Patty van Delft, Vanessa Gerrits, Marijke F. Jansen, Rianne Wering, Anne Nicolai, and Deborah Elizabeth. In case anyone who has vision problems still wants to hear the names, but this is Dutch and it was kind of inspired, it says, by the books Let It Snow and My True Love Gave to Me, which are American books that also have several festive stories in them. Now usually with anthologies there are always a lot of stories that I really like, some stories that I dislike, so they are usually kind of a mixed bag for me. But in this I actually really liked a lot of the stories, and there wasn't any one story that I disliked. Now I liked some more than others, but I liked all of them, at least to some extent. There was never a moment where I wanted to DNF the story or whatever, which I have had with other anthologies, so I was really glad for that. The first story, one of the characters has my name, my first name. That's really unusual for, well, you can't really see that, for a character to have my name. That hasn't happened very often in my experience. So if you do have a book with a character with my name on it, feel free to tell me. But my name is Gaia, by the way, for whoever doesn't know and hasn't read my username. But my last name is not Athena. Okay. And I also liked that these were not all contemporary stories. There were some that were more historical and some that were more, had some maybe like fantasy elements. I can't quite remember them all right now, but it wasn't like they were all in contemporary times, if that makes sense. So there's 10 stories and they usually have some kind of winter theme, often Christmas theme. A lot of them also have love, like a romance plot line in it. Well, just so you know. And yeah, now it's been a while since I read this, so I can't exactly remember which one of these stories I really liked the most, but it was definitely a good read, and I think something to reread in the future before Christmas. Okay, then we get to 6 Angry Girls by Adrienne Kisner. This is a young adult book, and this book is about 6 angry girls, but we follow 2 of them. It's told from a dual point of view, from Raina and Millie's point of view. This is Millie, I believe, based on what it says on inside, how they are described. But they eventually form a 6-girl group, and this book is about feminism, misogyny. One of the 2 main characters, she joins this knitting club, and that kind of leads, she meets the other girl at the knitting club eventually, and anyway, stuff happens. But then there's also, with one of the characters, for Millie, this is Millie, she is in kind of this mock trial theme. Now, I hadn't heard of this. This is an American book. So apparently mock trials is a thing, as far as I figured out. in high school where you have two teams and they are then doing kind of pretend cases, as in like a justice system kind of thing. So that was not something I'd ever heard of before. So that was interesting to learn about. I didn't get absolutely everything about that. But anyway, my point was, so she has always worked really hard for her team. And she's contributed a lot to it, but then she gets kicked off the team by the other guy, the boys. So that's kind of also a plot line that's going on. So there are several themes in here. I also really liked that the 6 angry girls were, you know, diverse in like looks and how do you say that, identities of, you know, straight and gay and all that. So she has, I can't remember her name, I can't remember any names, but so she has injured her leg, and some of them are bigger and stuff like that. So yeah, I like this book. I didn't love it because the mock trial stuff was sometimes a bit harder for me to understand, and because most of my knowledge from American justice systems comes from other books I've read and maybe some movies and TV shows I've seen. So, and as we all know, books and movies are certainly not always like reality. I mean, maybe this book isn't either, but so because of that, for me as a Dutch person, and we have a different system here, it was sometimes a little bit hard for me from the Netherlands to work it out, and because of that I couldn't give it like 5 stars, if that makes sense. But I did really like it, and maybe I will like it more on the second time around. But yeah, it was a good read. I enjoyed reading it, and I also like that this has a nice texture, which has absolutely nothing to do with reading the book in terms of the words, but it just makes it more fun to read the book, the whole book. Yeah. Now we get to Coma Girl by Stephanie Bond. This is the complete daily serial. So when this was first released, it was released in like different chapters, if you will, and then at the end it was made into one Kindle book, and also a paper book, independently published. And I've had this for quite a few years. So the premise of this book, the main character, Marigold, she's in a coma, and so she can't do anything, but she can hear what's going on around her. And so the premise is kind of, it's interesting what people say when they think you can't hear them, if that makes sense. That's also what it here says. You can learn a lot when people think you're not listening, or you aren't listening. And well, I didn't have like extremely high expectations of this because it was only one person that recommended it to me. It'd been on my shelf for a few years. I somehow found myself in the mood to read this. It actually turned out to be really, really good, which I was not expecting, right? Because, you know, an unknown book, I've only heard a review from one person, and that was some years ago. I don't even really remember what they said about it. But somehow I felt in the mood to read this. And so the book is split up into months. So here we have, I don't know if you can see that, July. And it starts with July 1st, Friday. So it goes through every day. And so the chapters between these days, see here it's July 2nd, they're relatively short. And of course it's split up in the months. That's how they were released in batches. And then people were meant to read one entry per day, if that makes sense. But anyway, I mean, you can do whatever you want. But I really liked having it all in one bind-up and reading it all, because this was so much better than I was expecting. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be bad, but I wasn't expecting to love it. So, yeah, this turned out actually to be more interesting than I was expecting, because you think, you know, a girl in a coma, she can't see anything, she can only hear, she can't move. Like, how can that story be interesting? But it was. It really was. And she is trying to figure out as well how she got into a coma, what happened, what's going on with various things. But anyway, yeah, I really liked it. Yeah. Okay, next up I read Gevangen in mijn binnenwereld by Sanmi Venema. This is a book in Dutch, and I read this because it says young woman has the locked-in syndrome. I presume that's the same in English, but I don't know that 100% sure. And so I thought that's slightly similar to Coma Girl, not quite, but I don't know. Sometimes my brain makes these weird connections. I felt like reading a memoir. Now, before reading this book, I didn't really know what locked-in syndrome, what that was. So I actually also looked it up online. Now I don't really remember everything from any of these books, but I like this memoir. So it's split up in before and after. So when she was, so when she was 17, a few days actually for her 18th birthday, she wakes up, and that's when things go wrong, I guess. When she has a strange feeling that something is wrong, and she doesn't know what, but then within a few hours, well, it says here, but I don't know how to translate that in Dutch. Like something like a bleeding in the brain, but not quite that. But I don't know the exact word, and I can't really be bothered to Google it right now. Because this book is in Dutch, so most of you probably can't read it anyway. But, so yeah, so San-Mi was adopted by Dutch parents when she was young, I think. I can't quite remember, sorry. And I can't remember now if she's from North or South Korea. It is somewhere in the book. It's just that my memory has been really bad lately, and so I'm sorry. If you want to know, read the book, or if you really want to know, ask me and I shall get the book out and try to find it for you. Okay, so then I finished Fablehaven Book 5, Keys to the Demon Prison by Brandon Mull. This series, the Fablehaven series, I've been reading together with Linda from Linda's World of Books. So we've been buddy reading one book a month. And so December, the last month in the year, it was time for the last book. And it is also the biggest one, the longest one. It's over 600 pages, just over. So it was the longest one, but it was definitely one of the best ones, I think. A lot of stuff happened. I can't give you synopsis, obviously, because it's the last book. But Fablehaven is middle grade fantasy. In book 1, we find out we have Seth and Kendra, their brother and sister, and their grandparents are caretakers of Fablehaven, which is a resort for magical creatures. Well, lots of stuff happened, and yeah, this book was definitely one of the best. There was lots of action, and in a way it made me think if the series couldn't have been structured a bit differently, because so much happened in this book in comparison to some of the other books. But I enjoyed finishing off the series. I'm also sad that it's over. There is a spin-off series. It's not all released yet, but some of it has. So I will look into that when they're all out, because I like to read the series in one go and not having to wait a long time for all the books to come out. Reading them as they come out, if that makes sense. So anyway, I really like this. Then I finished My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. This was a buddy read with Emily from Novelle Novels, and Sarah from Sara MG Reads, and Berna from Berna's Bookish Adventures. So yeah, the four of us buddy read My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. It's been a few years since I've read one of her books, because I read a lot of them years ago. But yeah, this was a nice read. So it's about Katy, she lives in London in a flat, and she has a job with a kind of advertising company. Sorry, I'm not sure the word that they used, but you know, she doesn't have a lot of money. Her room is tiny, but she wants her dad to be proud of her. So she doesn't tell him exactly what it's like. Her dad lives more in the countryside. So basically she has this job, but then things started to go sort of wrong. Now, she really doesn't like her boss, Demeter. And so relatively early on in the book, she gets fired. She was like already, let's put it, like the lowest staff of the team. Does that make sense? Like the lowest in the office? Like the newest recruit. And so she is mad at her boss, and things start to go wrong. She decides to move home to Somerset. So that's where her dad lives. And also, so for being in London, she tries to hide her accent from that area, that region. She tries to talk more, I don't know, like posh London's English. I feel like the book spoils quite a bit in comparison to when it happens in the book. But it does seem like a really appealing synopsis. Let me put it this way, she wants to try to take revenge on her boss when an opportunity arises. And I like this. Now, it wasn't a new favorite read. But I liked it. It was an enjoyable read. It was an easy read in the sense that, yeah, it didn't take that long to read. It was just comforting, and yeah. Then I was looking for a short book to read because of reasons. So I read Inpakken en Wegwezen 2013 or 2013. I got this at a charity shop, I think, or a second hand or something or other some time ago. And it has short stories that have to do with, well, travel and holidays and several things really. And there's a variety of authors, and I kind of don't really want to tell you them all, so I won't. But so I didn't really know what these stories were going to be like, and I also was not familiar with most of the authors, just with a few. And unlike Wonderland, this was more of a mixed bag for me. There were stories I really liked, but also ones I liked less. And I say stories, but there's actually also a few essays or something in there, like non-fiction. So yeah, more of a mixed bag. In December, I also read The Artemis Fowl Files, or in English, The Artemis Fowl Files by Owen Colfer. I read the Artemis Fowl series this year. I buddy read this with Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. And this is kind of like a kind of extra book that I found at a library sale a few years ago. And well, for, I don't know, €1 or something. I thought I'd give it a try to read with that. So now that I have read the whole series, I thought I can read this. So this has 2 short stories in it, as well as some interviews with the main characters, but the most important characters from the series, and well, a couple of other things. Now I like the short stories the most. So one of them is about Holly and how she got to be in the FBI, and like, well, she's captain now, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure of the English words. Okay, they're not coming to me. This is in Dutch. But so I really liked that short story. And the second short story, which I also really liked, the second story had to do with mulch, in Dutch turf. And I don't remember exactly, but how much I can spoil, how much I cannot spoil. But so this was a nice little extra. I mean, I don't know, depending on the price of the book, like I wouldn't pay as much for this as for, let's say, a whole novel of the Artemis Fowl series, which has like twice as many pages. I mean, a person can do whatever they like, but I mean, in terms of value for money, I would hope that this is a bit cheaper. Obviously, I got it at a library sale, so I didn't pay much. So, you know, in that case, it was worth it and I enjoyed it. And it was nice hearing, you know, the answers the characters gave. And there's an elf quiz, like what kind of, do you have elf ancestors and ancestors? Yeah. So it was a fun little book. Then I read Spouse on Haunted Hill by A.J. Kopperman. This is a haunted guest house mystery, book 8 out of 10. I am currently reading book 9 in this series. So this was another installment in the haunted guest house mystery series that I've been reading with my friend Sarah. And I am just really loving this series, especially as the books go on. You know a lot of the characters and are familiar with them. And this book had a bit of a personal thing going on, in that the mystery involved someone Alison knows. I mean, okay, that's very much non-spoilery. It says way more on the back, but so yeah, I really liked it. Then I read Punching the Air by, wait, I feel like those were not in order. I'm pretty sure I read the Artemis Fowl Files after I finished Spouse on Haunted Hill. But okay, I tried to do it in order. Then I read Punching the Air by Ibis Aboy and Yusuf Salam. This is a book told in verse, and it is about a black teenager, and he gets wrongly accused of a crime and he has to go to prison. So it says something on the back. I don't know, I don't want to say too much. This book is written in verse, like I said, and I loved it, which I was not expecting. I mean, I expected to like it, because otherwise why would I buy it? But yeah, this was excellent. And it's interesting because last year, in 2019, I read 2 books in verse, one of which I liked and one I really didn't like. This year, in 2020, I've read several books in verse and I liked all of them. In fact, I think a lot of them actually will be in my favorites video, but I haven't made it yet. So anyway, this was, I don't even know what to say. This was great. So Amal is an artist and a poet, and you know, on his art school something happens between him and a white boy, and so the white boy gets in a coma, and because he's in a coma he can't say what really happened, so they think that Amal, a black teenager, has done this, and so he's going to prison. He's not 18 yet, so it's more like I guess a youth prison or something. This was really good. Yeah, I also like that every now and then there was like, you know, kind of like an artsy thing going on depending on where we are in the story, and I thought that was really well done. For example, here it says lights on for when it's like day, I guess, and then some pages have like a different, well, this was excellent. It's a young adult book. Then I attempted to read Cerebral Palsy, a story by Ilana Estelle, Finding the Calm After the Storm, and unfortunately I had to DNF this. And I think it was mostly because when I chose to read this book, I really wanted to read a memoir, and this book is part memoir and part self-help book, and so I expected that to be half and half, but it didn't really feel like that to me. So in the beginning it's more of a memoir and I was enjoying that, but then we got to the self-help part, which I was not looking for, but also some of the tips don't apply to me. For example, there was quite a section that is about raising children, and I don't have children, I don't want children, so I don't want to know how I raise children. And if I do want to know, then obviously, you know, that's not on the back, by the way, that's in there. But so I can imagine for someone who does need and want those tips, it's probably great, but it was not what I need right now. So it was getting a slog to get through it, reading about these things that didn't really interest me and that didn't really apply to me. So in the end I DNF'd it about halfway through because it was making me feel like I didn't want to read. So I really liked the beginning, and in which she talks about her cerebral palsy and her life and all that. So that was the stuff I came for. And also this was interesting. It turned out when I was flicking through the book before starting it that the author is autistic, so that made me even more interested to read the book. But then we got to the parts that were mostly about self-help, and what this chapter is called, for example, family life. And yeah, it has no relevance on me because I don't have children and I don't want them. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. And then we got to the mental health section, which I'm sure is nice if that's what you're looking for. My life is a bit different right now because of a medication and everything. So I'm just trying to get through and surviving and stuff. So I'm not really working on like improving myself specifically. And now I did take a few things from this book. It said some things about feelings, and so that I thought was interesting, and that has been in my mind since reading this, well, since reading half of this book. So I don't know if I'll maybe ever go back to it when I do feel at least in the mood to hear about it, let's put it that way. The last chapter has some spirituality also in it, and that is something that I was very interested in as a teen, but not so much nowadays. So I might go back to it if I'm in a better mood, but when I was attempting to read this, I was not. So I'm gonna leave this in there, and if I do feel like coming back to it, I can. If I don't, well, then I can give the book to somebody else. But I feel really bad because this is not a very well known book as far as I know. But I know I actually bought it because I'd seen it on one or a couple of people's YouTube channels, booktube channels, who were talking about this book. So I feel kind of bad because to say that I DNF'd it because they liked it and I DNF'd it. So I'm not giving it a rating because I DNF'd it, but just that's why it took me so long also to decide to DNF it, even though I was making only small progress. So in the end I did DNF it, but yeah, I did feel guilty. But yeah, it's probably just me and not the book. Then the second to last book I read in December is The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher. This is book 1, The Christmasaurus. And I buddy read this with Linda from Linda's Older Books and Nikki from dark between pages. And it was kind of more, a thing I decided later on in, well, not a long time beforehand, because I was watching Linda's TBR video, and then she mentioned she was going to read this in December and buddy read it with Nichi. And I thought, I have this book on my TBR, my general TBR. So I could, since I had just buddy read with Linda, the Fablehaven book, so I thought I'd join in that, and that was a lot of fun. This was absolutely adorable. It is about William Trundle, and he and the Christmasaurus, who is a kind of dinosaur. And as you see the wheelchair in here, I really like that. William can't use his legs, I don't remember exactly, but it was just really cute and adorable, and especially children. I think so. This is a Christmassy, wintry story, and it's got kind of that children's fantasy whimsicalness, and I think kids would really like this. Now, I as an adult really liked it. It was super adorable, super cute, and also some twists managed to surprise me, which, well, it's pretty not, doesn't take a lot to surprise me, but still. It has also really nice illustrations, and also, yeah, I love that, you know, a boy in a wheelchair was the main character and got to be a hero and all that. And I also really liked his dad. So his dad is called Bob Trundle, and the dad, he loves Christmas. And I just loved seeing the relationship between the boy and the dad. I really liked it. Now, there is a trigger warning from bullying in this book. Well, it's not written anywhere, but it happens in the book, and I just wanted to point that out, because when it happened, I found it a little bit difficult to read, given that I've been bullied and all that. Now, it is a kid's book, and there's also a villain, but yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. There is also a sequel, The Christmasaurus and the Winter Witch, I think, which I have ordered because I love this. I don't know when I'll be reading it because I haven't opened the package yet, but it might not have even arrived yet. I'm not sure, because not all of the things in my order have been shipped. Anyway, this was adorable. And then the last book in 2020 was, and yeah, the F-star CK It Diet, because I'm not sure what YouTube is going to do if they hear me say this. Actually, when I was writing to somebody that this was the book I was reading, and the website censored me. Even though I put, you know, it is called with the star. This is how the title is, but yeah, I had to laugh at that. Okay, so this is by Caroline Dooner. And I picked this up based on the recommendation of a memoir or something that I read, written by a fat person. I don't know which of the two it was that I've read this year, but anyway. So this is, as it says on the back, this is not a diet book, and it is certainly not for everyone, in the sense that, and I mean, I picked it up because of the recommendation from the other book, but it's not a book that I specifically needed. Now, this is again difficult. Okay, so I was trying to, after finishing this book, I was trying to tell to my closest family, you know, about fat phobia and diet culture and the book, and I knew beforehand that that was not going to work, but they wanted me to tell them, so okay. So I did, and of course it made no difference whatsoever, and so I afterwards felt crappy and they did not. While I was trying to do a good thing pretty much all my life, it's just I cannot convince other people of things. That's not my thing. You know, I am not an activist, and I'm very bad at it, which is frustrating really. But yeah, I don't think that's going to change, which, you know, if they want to lose weight, that's, you know, they can do what they want, but it is difficult for me sometimes to hear that kind of talk. And I did mention that. And sometimes they ask about my weight, and, you know, and well, I love my family, don't get me wrong, but we're in different places regarding certain things, because, you know, the past while I've been doing a lot of looking into things like racism, fat phobia, diet culture, and, you know, intersectionality and the patriarchy, and well, so I'm much further on my journey to that. They are not, so not in the same way, I mean. So you know, feminism and yeah. And it doesn't help that one of these people has medical knowledge. Let me keep it that vague. So yeah, but well, we're all adults, and so I'm gonna do whatever I want. I mean, within reason, but I mean regarding food, because you know I'm okay with my size or whatever, even if they're not. So I mean, I tried. Anyway, the book, I liked it. So yeah, I didn't. I liked some bits more than others because, like I said, I didn't really need it. This is specifically also for people who, you know, diet for a while, lose weight, then maybe eat more or not, go off the diet, go on the diet. Basically, those, you know, people who diet a lot but in the end don't lose any weight, that who really buy into the diet industry, if that makes sense, which is not me. So, and my story is actually a little bit differently because the reason that I started gaining weight in the first place was my medication. So even though I tried to, you know, it didn't matter because even if I gained even when I wasn't eating much, sort of thing. I don't want to trigger anybody. So anyway, I liked this book. I didn't love it in the sense that it wasn't 100% useful to me, if let's put it that way, but I liked it. And there were also some things in it that I thought were, yeah, can be interesting to keep in mind for future other things. But yeah, so I guess I should have tried to forget that I failed to convince anyone of anything, but thus is life. And yeah, it's just not my strength. It does bother me, but well, I tried. That's all I can say. They should just read the books that I've read and follow the people I follow, because they all do a much better job than I do, apparently. Debating or something. That's never been my strength either. Like, no. So, it sometimes makes me feel a little bit alone though, in the sense that, well, I don't know a lot of people who, yeah, especially in like my real life, yeah. I'm rambling now. I've created like, who knows how much footage, like an hour and a half long or even longer, I don't even know. Because I had to stop the camera several times, so I don't know what it's become in the end, and it's going to be a pain editing this, and it's my own fault. Well, other than the phone call and, you know, some of the things were not my fault, okay, but some of it was, and I was really rambly. So, I hope you got something out of this wrap up. If you liked it, leave a like. Please comment if you've read any of these books, or if you want to read any of these books, or if you have them on your TBR or whatever, or if you've read another book by an author, or just leave below all the nice things. Gladly we don't get a lot of trolls on BookTube, but I have had a few, and interestingly often on the same video, which is quite old, but so be nice, please. I'm sorry for being all over the place. Lack of sleep, medication, and also we went into lockdown, I think on the 18th of December or something like that. Maybe earlier, but let's say the second half of December and the first half of January, so that's still going on. Which was, while not affecting me personally very much, because I was already staying inside, not going anywhere. But it did come as, you know, the numbers were doing worse than I thought, because I'm trying not to look at the news like all the time, because that just stresses me out. So, you know, you gotta look at it when you feel okay enough to do that, so that it won't upset you or whatever. So, well, wherever you are, I hope that you're doing okay, and hopefully I can edit this actually before it is half December, because otherwise what I'm saying is already not applicable anymore. But yeah, wherever you are in the world, I hope you are doing okay, stay safe and all of that. And let's hope that 2021 will be a better year in that regard. Thank you very much for watching this video. I decided to do it here because here we have some lighting upstairs. The lighting is bad, basically. I'm working on it to improve it, but like I said, I'm not going anywhere. So, but I do have some lights, but anyway, I bought some Christmas lights. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!